What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Cleveland Pulse. Hope you're all doing well. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co-host, Jess Santa. Today, we are going to rank the Cleveland Browns' top 5 free agency additions. Andrew Berry making a lot of good moves. Really hard to actually rank some of these guys. A lot of quality players being brought in this offseason, being methodical about it with the free agency trend. So Jeff and I thought that we'd go ahead and give our top 5 rankings. Both of us will have different opinions for the most part, but we thought we'd give a little bit of reasoning in our top 5. So Jeff, what are you thinking about this one?
Yo, what's going on? I mean, like you said, Andrew Berry, great moves. We have 5 signings, so that's good. But before we start, just a quick shout out to everyone that's watched, the past couple uploads that we've had. The numbers have honestly been unbelievable. Me and Justin were talking the other day, coming up on a year of doing this podcast, just running the Cleveland Pulse in general. We almost have 50 episodes in the book, so it's been great. But one thing I do want to point out, and I don't want to harp on it a lot, but it's just something I got to bring up. The last time I looked at our numbers, like 95+% of you guys that watch are not subbed. So we want, we appreciate the views. Hit the sub button, hit our, ring our bell, make sure that we're going to be coming out with news. We're 2 college kids. We go to school and, we do our other things in our life, but we're here to make the Cleveland Pulse, number one priority for us and to make sure that you guys are always informed. So I just wanted to throw that out there, hit the sub button and throw comments down in the bottom. If you have a good comment and, you can't stand us, you really like us, we're going to hit you up. If you want to come on and be on the Zoom, tell your family, tell your friends, come be on the Zoom, share that episode with them. That's cool with us.
Absolutely. We love the comments. Honestly, it's one of the most rewarding parts of doing this all. And Jeff and I absolutely love doing it. So like you said, just hit that subscribe button, hit the bell and get the notifications turned on and we'd appreciate it. So without further ado though, our top 5 rankings, I'll start us off, Jeff. So number 5 for me, I got the D tackle Malik Jackson. Solid defensive player for us, filling in a hole that, Larry Ogunjobi left and Andrew-Billings, a signing from last year who opted out. We didn't get to see play. It's kind of one of those weaker areas on our defense getting filled, but Malik Jackson's a little bit older. He's one of those veteran players, but also has the potential to kind of just be a backup and not actually be the starter with Andrew-Billings coming back next year. Sheldon Richardson obviously returning and being that number 1 starter. And we have a draft coming up here, and who knows, we might go out and draft a D tackle as well. So Malik Jackson for me is going to sit at that number 5 spot.
That's interesting because I think, like you said, we're going to have different opinions. I actually have Takk McKinley at my number 5 spot, just because of, I think this is this was a chance that Andrew Berry took on him. It wasn't the splash D end, signing that he could have went for, which is, pretty similar to Malik Jackson. But I felt like Malik Jackson was kind of, filling a hole that, he might be able to do pretty serviceably. He might be, he'll fit into the scheme. He'll fit into Joe Woods' defense pretty good, I think, wherever we need him, even if it's in a small role. But Takk McKinley, I mean, he might have to fill like an Olivier Vernon role at the end of the day, depending on what we do in the draft, which I don't know. I mean, I know he had good years in his career, but I don't know if he's going to, put up 8.5 or 7.5 sacks like Olivier did last year, even playing exceptionally well when Myles Garrett went down with COVID. So, I mean, I think it's going to be an uphill battle for Takk McKinley. I think he's got it in him. I hope he's got it in him. And I believe in Andrew Berry. So, I mean, no disrespect putting him at 5, but somebody's got to go there.
Yeah, and so for me, that's pretty good because I have him at 4. However, for me, Takk is really interesting in the sense that he had more of a falling out with the organization in Atlanta his last 2 years. His first 2 years were actually pretty good for a rookie in his second year, 7.5 sacks, I believe, and 6 sacks his second year. My thing with Takk is that he could be much higher on this list. He could, for, a lack of, other players being on here, he could be 2 for me. I wouldn't put him at 1, but with the potential of being that opposite side D end of Myles Garrett, you get a lot of benefits of that. You get a lot of benefits. And to be honest, the only other player on that side of the opposite side of Myles right now is Curtis Weaver, a player who was drafted last year, got hurt, did not play the whole season. And then you have Porter Gustin, who we saw him play last year, and he showed maybe one or two, bursts of good athleticism and good playmaking. I guess I shouldn't say that. He had like three, because in the playoff game against the Steelers, he did catch an interception, which was pretty athletic about him, but his actual DN presence isn't very, intimidating or anything. And for Tack, I think, being that former first round pick, there's a lot of potential there. And, he said he's more motivated than he has been lately, hoping, he can turn his career around and make a name for himself in Cleveland. So I got him at 4, but he could be much higher at the end of the season for all we know. Could be that guy going for the long run.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. As far as upside, I think you have definitely a very good point there. I like Malik Jackson at 4, and I think this is interesting because I was watching I don't know if it was Cleveland.com or somebody doing kind of similar, it was a roundup, and they talk about Troy Hill and how he's 29 and how he's like, I don't know what the exact language was, but they were like, oh, Troy Hill 29, good spunk for our defense, and then they're like Malik Jackson 31, veteran, and I'm like, okay, obviously they're gonna try to make this like the ages, however they want to, however it fits the narrative. But I think Malik Jackson just being a defensive lineman, I agree though, he is a veteran presence. I think that if Myles Garrett is going to learn from anybody, anything else that Myles Garrett has to learn, which I'm not sure it's a whole lot, even though they don't play the exact same position, of course. But I mean, still, you're bringing in a guy you're looking to be, somebody who I like as a locker room presence, hopefully, which I think all these guys outside of Tack, I think Tack, with the falling out of the organization, that's why he gets put at 5 for me. Malik Jackson as a locker room presence, it makes less sense in football as it does in other sports, say basketball, because you still got some motor in you left in your 30s, mid 30s in basketball. When you get mid 30s in football, I mean, you're kind of done unless you're a quarterback. But I'm really looking forward to the veteran presence that Malik Jackson's going to bring.
And to bring up another point, just to help your argument for putting him at 4, Malik Jackson, actually a very good pass rusher at D tackle, was ranked, I believe, 22nd in PFF.
He had a lot of pressures. His pressure stats are underrated from last year. Not a lot of people know that about him. He pressures the quarterback a lot. Doesn't get home as much as you would think he should, but his pressures are up.
And just another side note that I'm going to bring up probably 2 or 3 more times with Andrew Berry. We were not very good at sacking the quarterback last year from the inside gaps, and just in general without Myles on the field. Andrew Berry just went and attacked everything that, these next 3 guys we're going to talk about have a very similar theme throughout, but Malik Jackson helping that pressure side of the ball is going to be huge. So 4 and 5 were very interchangeable for me as well, but I think it's a very solid placing for him. But moving on to that, number 3, I got Anthony Walker coming over from Indianapolis. And let me tell you, the dude got so much praise from his teammates coming over. I mean, they just could not say anything bad about the man if they wanted to. He was apparently a locker room presence. I believe it was Darius Leonard, correct? I think.
That defense was good. Remember playing that defense? That they were even hurt when we played them, but that defense all year long, Xavier Rhodes, Darius Leonard, good defense.
Yeah, Anthony Walker picked off Baker Mayfield last year in that game. So, but for me, number 3, he fills in a role where, you had BJ Goodson. Sorry, I almost forgot his name for a minute. Thank God BJ Goodson's not coming back, because I was not his fan. I know a lot of people were hit me down in the comments with that, but I think Anthony Walker is a way better version. This man had multiple 100 combined tackled seasons, which is a huge thing that we lacked. We were a bottom 5. If we're lucky, we're a bottom 10 defense, but I'm pretty sure we were a bottom 5 defense for the majority of games that we played in, and we could not tackle. That was one of the things that I just hated watching our team do, is we could not wrap up and tackle people for the life of us to get off the field on 3rd downs and things like that. So Anthony Walker also just being a presence for that linebacking core, which is, super depleted. We have guys that are very young there at that position. Sione Takitaki, my guys, Jacob Phillips and Mac Wilson, who, I'm hoping Mac Wilson has a bounce back, and I'm hoping that Jacob Phillips progresses and stays healthy for a year. But that that linebacking position was the one that I was harping on all season, all off season, is like, we need to get replacements at starters, because that was the worst position group on the defense. If it wasn't for our DBs being hurt all the time, it would have been, as noticeable, but it was bad. It was super bad. And Anthony Walker just brings a whole presence with him. He brings that tackling. He brings the whole locker room presence. And the one other aspect is that he was the mouthpiece of the defense for Indianapolis Colts, which basically means he was calling in the plays and getting guys lined up and everything, which is a big thing that I think is just needed for our defense in general.
So for number 3, I got Troy Hill. And Troy Hill is a double-edged sword to me. But one side's obviously, his upside is a lot bigger than his downside. I think we all know that. But I think this gets into murky waters in, as far as cornerbacks goes, just because of the Greedy Williams situation. I feel like we talk about it, we harp on it, but it's true. Like, it was just a weird anomaly. Didn't play at all. Didn't even, from training camp or whatever they even had, to all the way to 2 playoff games, we never even saw him. So I think that the Troy Hill situation actually might make Joe Woods' job a little bit harder, which, well, I just think his critics are going to be up now because he actually has players to work with. It might be a Joe Woods roast session if our defense is, average. It might be a roast session, which I don't think it should be, especially the first half of the season, whatever, but I think it could be. But I think that Troy Hill, while adding his depth and adding him, playing with John Johnson, was good. I think that our cornerback position, 100% healthy, and even our secondary 100% healthy, was very, is sufficient. Our linebackers are so bad. That's why I have Anthony Walker at 2. I'm going to let you talk about Troy Hill before I talk about Anthony Walker, but that's why I have Walker at 2, just because our linebackers were so bad. And like you said, all we ever heard about from the Colts is that this guy, Anthony Walker, is a stud. And this might be a hot take. Leave your comments below about it. I didn't think MJ Stewart played that bad. He wasn't great, but with Denzel being hurt every year that we've had him, basically, I thought MJ Stewart, he got burnt, but I mean, everyone gets burnt in the league. I thought he played good enough where I was kind of shocked that we went and got Troy Hill. I like the move. I approve Andrew Berry. I've approved of everything Andrew Berry's done for the most part. We'll see in a couple of years, and especially this draft. But I was a little bit upset at the point where I thought we could have flipped Njoku or somebody else. I wanted Stephen Gilmore from the Patriots. So that's why I'll put Troy Hill at 3, because I felt like we could have got Gilmore, and I feel like our linebackers were just in a worse state.
See, so for me, Troy Hill, he also fills in the way that you're talking about Anthony Walker filling in a big hole, is the point that you were making. Denzel Ward has been hurt every year that we've had him. Greedy Williams just missed a full season, and that left you with Terrence Mitchell being your number 1 guy, who's now gone, and also left you with Tavierre Thomas, who could not cover a guy for his life. Okay, guess what? He was great at tackling the guy after they caught the ball, but that's besides the point. You're supposed to
Evan
stop
Johnson,
him from ever catching
either.
Also hurt, and also don't know if he's coming back. So our depth at cornerback is poor, is very poor. I would not be shocked if in the first 2 to 3 picks of the draft is a cornerback, because the depth there is very slim, something that we'll touch on later. But Troy Hill, the one thing that I really do like about his game is he kind of worked his way up. He had his first couple of seasons weren't that great. He's been in the league for about 5-6 years now. I think it's 6 years now. Wasn't great, but then his 2 years with the Rams were exponentially greater than everything else he's done, especially last year where he had 3 interceptions. He had the most touchdowns returned by a single defensive player. And, I think at this point in the season or in the offseason, I'm leaning towards Troy Hill being that number 2 cornerback starting day 1. We'll see with Greedy, it's hard for a guy that was not brought in by the Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry regime to be that starter on the opposite side of Denzel, who is your obvious number 1, over a guy that you just brought in on a fairly good contract, 4 years for $6 million, I believe, which I think is a good amount for a player of his caliber. And for me, Anthony Walker, he's a run stopper and he's a tackler, but he's also a little bit lackluster in coverage, which, you were talking about Troy Hill's downside. That's my view on Anthony Walker's downside. And we'll see how it progresses. But again, a lot of these guys interchangeable within the, 2 to 5 range. But obviously, number one, me and you right now, I'll let you talk about Anthony Walker. But it looks like we're both leaning towards John Johnson III being number one.
Oh yeah, everybody knows John Johnson. JJ3 is number one. Obviously, Anthony Walker. Here's my case for Anthony Walker too. I don't have readily available, next gen stats, AWS, Amazon Web Services. I'm not a computer, but we could not tackle last year. Andrew Berry knew this. We could not tackle, and we didn't have good coverage linebackers anyway. So it's not like we lost a good coverage linebacker and now we just have a guy that could tackle. He still's not a good coverage linebacker. He shouldn't have to be in this system. I mean, it's nice having him, but I mean, you're over the top's good, and you're going to have pressure on the quarterback. Who does he have to cover? We need him to tackle. Oh, and people are going to be, if you're at me that, Troy Hill, we had 3 interceptions last year. Definitely had 3 interceptions. Turnovers wasn't our problem last year. It was at some points. We went through droughts. We talked about it. We'd have 3 or 4 or 5 a game in the playoffs, and then we'd have 0. Literally none. So I'm not really worried about Troy Hill adding 3 interceptions. I know he's got a knack for the ball. That's great. I love that. But I think Anthony Walker, there's the guys in our division turn the ball over kind of anyway. Lamar throws the ball around for fun. Big Ben, is he going to duplicate, not turn the ball over? I don't know. Probably not. And Joe Burrow, he's young. He's going to turn the ball over. We need guys that could tackle, the running backs who could tackle people coming up the middle and who could tackle, maybe even quarterbacks, hopefully. So that's why I got Walker at 2, JJ3 at 1, though, obviously.
Yeah, and so just another point with, I was trying to make a theme with Troy Hill, Anthony Walker, and John Johnson III. Going back to Troy Hill, had 77 tackles last year, which again, more than the majority of our cornerbacks, and very close to BJ Goodson, who was our leading tackler, I believe had 93. It just goes to show you, Andrew Berry knew what our weaknesses were, went into this offseason and got guys that knew how to tackle. Going into John Johnson, that's his one big thing, is he's an amazing tackler. 100 tackles this season and 100 tackles 2 seasons later. I mean, the man, obviously the biggest signing, very young, obviously only 25 years old. He fits into that young core for 3 years. He's going to be that big star in the background. And I'll let you talk about him a little bit more, but the one other thing that I was talking about with Anthony Walker is he had the mouthpiece. John Johnson III, also the mouthpiece on defense for the Rams, and teammate Jalen Ramsey. Is it Jalen Ramsey who's in? Yeah, Jalen Ramsey with both Troy Hill and John Johnson III. I like that you already came up with JJ3. I like that. I know you're already going to get his jersey and everything, so you got that attachment and everything. But, he couldn't say anything bad about those guys. He was, talking about how the Browns got some real dudes and everything with those 2 pickups. And so, these guys, I think PFF came out with a list of like teams that were the most improved, and the Browns were top 5, and they also didn't spend top 5 money, which is incredible to think that, they improved so much without spending ludicrous amount of money like the Patriots did. So I'm very happy with the lists that I have. And, I'm glad that we both can agree on one thing for sure.
Oh, dude, easily. I think they're all good. I think they all could be number ones. I mean, in a top 5 list, they all could be number ones. They could have been number ones for a lot of people who didn't even get to sign anyone in free agency. Pittsburgh Steelers, 1 guy, 2 guys, Zach Banner and Juju, whatever. But like you said, John Johnson, green dot, Anthony Walker, play caller. And that's nice to say and everything, but if you don't have the added, statement on the back end of that does anyone smell one sniff of an ego? I don't smell one sniff of an ego from any of these guys. It's all, we wanted to make the Browns better. We took less money to make the Browns better. We want to come here. The culture's up. We're trending in the right direction. I don't hear one hint of it's not going to work now. I hear just, we're all going to work and we're all going to make people better. And dude, Grant Delpit, this is the best situation for him, being around John Johnson, Denzel Ward, Troy Hill. Who knows what those 2 guys are going to come up with, along with Greedy Williams, Anthony Walker.
Harrison Jr.
Ronnie Harrison Jr. If we get a young guy in the draft who's a linebacker, he's going to have Anthony Walker on his ass the whole time during training camp. The culture, I think we found the offensive culture last year.
Yeah,
I think everyone can agree with that. I think
absolutely.
Nick Chubb is your lead by example. I think Baker and Jarvis are lead by example and lead by, their actions and how they talk and how they, kind of hype the team up. The defense was mush puddle. It was Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. Everyone else was sleepwalking. I think we totally just revamped the defense, and I think other teams are getting worse.
It's amazing how Andrew Berry went from last year's free agency to this year's free agency, because it's the exact same plan. Last year, what was our biggest problem? Baker Mayfield was running for his life the entire season. What did he go do? He signed a right tackle for, big money, and then first pick in the draft that we had, signed or got our left tackle. Boom. Baker Mayfield, our offensive line, one of the best, top 5 offensive line probably at this point. No longer have to worry about Baker running for his life. And Andrew Berry just went ahead and did that this year and went and got defensive players galore. So obviously, A+ for Andrew Berry, and especially, it's just so interesting that he's so young. He's younger than Malik Jackson and some of these guys that he signed. It's crazy that,
young.
He's so intelligent and that he's just kind of taken the league by storm at that GM position. So obviously a round of applause for Andrew Berry, but overall just a phenomenal A+ job that he's done here in free agency.
Yep, you covered it all. A+, and I think it's interesting. I mean, I don't know how much it goes into the decision, but I'm almost certain that Andrew Berry was a part of the Colts organization. I'm not sure if Anthony Walker, but I mean, just how he dials in on players and how he's ready. Who would have thought that me and you talking, a couple weeks ago, that we were going to get 2 guys from the Rams that have already played in a defensive system together. I mean, that's a genius move. All these guys coming off their, 4th or 5th years, going into their 6th years, all
the number 1 defense, those 2 guys. They're coming from the number 1 defense in the league, which is, you talk about the culture thing. You brought it up a couple times. I mean, just phenomenal, and it's been great. It's been so unique to watch these past 2 off seasons unfold for us. You can tell things are different, which is awesome.
Right. And now we get to see, we see what Kevin Stefanski did on the offensive side. Now it's Joe Woods' turn. And I got full faith in Joe Woods. I got full faith in everyone in the organization for the first time since I've been alive. So
same here.
A+.
I agree. So unless Jeff, you got anything else to say, I think we'll wrap it up here. Everyone, like Jeff was saying in the beginning, we really do appreciate you all watching. If you guys can hit that subscribe button and hit the bell for the notifications, leave comments, leave your likes and everything. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your guys' thoughts. What is your top 5 for how Andrew Berry handled this offseason acquisitions and all that? And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.